Hello there. My name's Mark, aka the Canardian Jedi. That's right, I changed it, mixing things up a little bit. And this is episode 78 of Holocron Chronicles. Charlie is once again away exploring the galaxy, off on a top secret mission, and we wish him the best of luck. But while Charlie is away, I've got another fantastic guest lined up, and you can see him right now if you're watching the video. If not, everyone, please welcome Jimmy K. Foe to the show for the first time. Jimmy, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself, Mark?
I am great. I'm super excited to have you on. We just today, we both kind of shared something in our stories. A video we did together got over 2,000 views. I think that's a little bit, something to celebrate. And and this was lined up before we knew that was going to happen. So it's kind of a nice little milestone to hit, and then jump on the recording tonight. So it's pretty great to have you.
It's great to be here.
Excellent. Before we learn all about you, all about your intro to Star Wars, all that kind of stuff, I have to take care of some housekeeping stuff, including thanking our Patreon supporters over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. You can go over there right now, get a 7-day free trial, and check out all the exclusive bonus content and all that kind of stuff, as well as ad-free versions of every single Secret Friends podcast on the network. So if that sounds interesting to you, you can go support us for as little as $1 a month, which is pretty awesome to unlock all those features and all that kind of stuff. I do have to thank our friends with benefits tier, including Corey and HD, John Sedorf, the Phoenix Sisters Cosplay, and Brennan Myers, as well as our BFF tier, Sean, Stella, and Henry Nias, Missy Merchant, Matthew Keel, and Asian Sith Mistress. Thank you all for supporting us over there. If you'd like to be a subscriber and help us out over on Patreon, again, you can visit patreon.com/secretfriendsunite and check out a free trial and see if it's right for you. If you can't support us financially, or you don't want to, or whatever, and you still want to help us out, head over to YouTube, throw us a subscribe, throw us a couple of likes over there, tell some friends, share some of the content, whether it's one of the hosts or the Secret Friends Unite network in general. We appreciate any kind of share, like, subscribe, whatever you can do. Follow us anywhere you can, and that's always appreciated. And of course, leaving reviews and all that kind of stuff goes a long way as well. So all of that said, all of that out of the way, let's learn a little bit more about Jimmy.
All right.
Perfect. All right. Well, first off, let's tell us about a little bit about yourself and the stuff you do on your social channels, the content that you create, and then we'll get into your Star Wars origin.
All right. So if anybody follows me or starts following me, you'll basically notice that it's it's not a total hot mess, but it's a little variety of everything. So I by trade am a filmmaker. I have a production company. Most of the stuff that I do is business content creation, which is run social media pages, make web pages. I do TV commercials. I do photography. I also do movies, but obviously with the strikes, things kind of slowed down. Been doing that, so now I'm going back into the movie realm. But essentially, what I decided was I do a lot of different things, and as a artist, you're constantly told you're constantly asked, what is your niche? What do you do? What do you bring? What do you want to tell? And I kind of started to notice that I kind of am all over the place. And instead of picking a niche, I've decided I will just be all over the place for everything from now on. So my social media is now going to showcase that. So it's going to be everything from traveling to work to cosplay stuff to TikToks with great people like Mark. And just being totally ridiculous. I have a saying my parents told me: when I grow up, I can be anything I wanted to be, and I want to be ridiculous. So
I like it. That's a good approach. I love the randomness of your stuff, and
oh, thank
to
you.
hear that it's going to continue to get potentially more and more random is just good stuff, because you never know if you're going to get some Star Wars stuff or if you're going to get Harry Potter crossed with Christmas Vacation. Just
Yeah,
tune in for something fun. You're probably going to laugh. Like it's a great feed to follow. You're very
thank you.
entertaining.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
How did you get started in, like, was it content creation first and then video stuff, or was it video stuff and then you were like, you know what, I like doing this so much I'm also going to make it my hobby?
So basically, what happened I went to the University of North Carolina School of the Arts, which is where David Gordon Green, Jeff Nichols, Danny McBride. That's where they went to school. So I studied filmmaking. Always wanted to do film. I came out of college, did my first feature film. That took because it was on such a shoestring budget, it took a very long time to get it made. Um, so then sometime in 2014, I was asked. My cousin was too young to go by himself, and his mom did not want to go, so I was asked to go. And I was like, "Oh, this is a lot of fun." I was like, "Oh, people dress up," and I was the type of person where when Deathly Hallows Part 1 and 2 came out, I dressed up as Harry Potter. So to me, I was like, "Oh, okay, well, this is just something else I could do." And I just the cosplay thing was more of a like, oh, I just enjoy this. I didn't consider myself anything because I knew so many people created these awesome costumes. I'm like, I look like Harry Potter, so I just put a scar on and I'm like done. So I just was doing that. And then my friend Dane, his handle's BK Dane, he did a lot of mashups. Like my favorite of his is a mashup of Joker and Jack Sparrow. It's one of my
I have
favorite
to go check
cosplays he's
that
ever
out.
done. And I was like, mashups are so cool. I'm like, why can't I do this? And then I think the first mashup I might have did was Jedi Potter. I believe that was the first one I did. So I basically I had the Jedi robes. I added the scar. I got one of the chopstick lightsabers. So that
Oh
way it's like the
yeah,
size of a
it
wand.
looks like the wand but it's a light. That's
Yeah, and then I
awesome.
wore
Yeah.
the jeans like Harry wears with so yeah. So then I started doing that, and then the content creation stuff was just kind of like I just kept watching people do cool things, and like being a content creator is cool, but I consider myself more like a filmmaker that just has likes that fandoms can be a part of, and it's just a better way to follow because it's just more interesting and more fun. And then I decided to get totally ridiculous, which like the Christmas Vacation thing. The Christmas Vacation thing, I actually came up with in 2022. I was talking with my friend Dane. And I said next
Wow.
year before Christmas I'm going to do it, and then I did it. So yeah.
Amazing. um that's awesome. And I love that, like, long planning kind of stuff too. Like that's really good.
Plus, I
um
think it would be more fun, like with like the filmmaking stuff. It's like, oh, like I'm not just like I feel like there's this whole like bad cliche like conventional wisdom of like auteurs and like directors and things like that. It's like, no, man. Like I'm a fan too of all this stuff. I want to
yeah,
have fun. So
yeah, I love that side of, you'll see it in, like, IGN interviews or different things like that, where they will ask, like, what video game are you playing? What thing, what fandom are you part of? And you find out those behind the scene things, like, um, like, this person read these comic books or, like, wants to get into these movies, but they're, like, doing, like, other stuff. And it's like, that person reads comic books. What the hell? Like, what are you talking about?
right,
It's like that person, like even like Charlie Cox cosplaying as Bluey. Is like,
yeah,
okay, did Daredevil just cosplay? I watched that man beat up a hallway full of badasses, and he's at a
right.
convention, not as a guest. He's cosplaying on the floor
I
as
might have seen him.
Bluey.
I might have saw him.
It's wild. Why?
I really
Just
might have because he
amazing.
was at New York Comic Con, and I do remember an adult being Bluey. I think I might have saw him. I have a
Fantastic.
friend of mine who she was dressed as Elektra, and he took a picture with her and admitted
Oh,
it. And so there's a story on her stories on TikTok. She explains how she figured it out afterwards. She just and while she was there and stuff like that. And I was like, yo, that's like hilarious because they did the same thing when Agents of Shield had a panel. They had Coulson. Coulson might have been Rocket. Quake was. I don't know, they were all different guardians, and they were just walking around, and I was like, how did I not like run into these people? Like,
Amazing. Yeah.
you know,
And
so.
you could have, and you don't even know it. You're just like
Exactly. I probably
you
saw
know,
some idiot with like the rocket mask that just didn't move, and I was like, "Oh, that's so cool!" But they're too
yeah.
tall. And it was probably him. Yeah.
Amazing, amazing. I gotta say that I definitely agree. Like the mashup stuff. And speaking of like I just did a Daredevil Jedi mashup,
Mm,
and I've done so that one. And I've done like Bananakin Skywalker, and I see
yeah.
your stuff, and I'm like, what other mashups can I do? What can I like pull
Yeah.
off
I have
like Jimmy does? And it's just it's
well,
fun to
that,
think about, right? Like you're like, what do
that,
I have around
that,
the house? Okay,
yeah. No, I have a few. I have a few ideas, and that's really funny because I like your TikToks. I was like, oh, I gotta up my TikTok game like Mark here. But no, I have a couple of ideas. I have two really good TikToks with two awesome people, but I'm not gonna say anything. That one of them, one of them I think is gonna be really funny. The other one, if I do it right, it'll be the funniest thing I've ever done. If I do it
nice.
right, because it'll be so ridiculous. But yes,
I
it's
look forward to it.
it's yeah. So it's it's just I like all this stuff. It just was. I've been following cosplayers. I don't know for how long, and it's just kind of like, oh, cool. Let me try this. I guess why not? Somebody's got to do it. So
I love it. I love it. That's awesome, man. So this is a Star Wars podcast, not a cosplay podcast. We could talk about that kind of stuff all night, I'm sure.
okay.
But before I let myself do that, I have to switch gears a little bit and talk about how you got into Star Wars specifically. So what was your introduction to Star Wars?
So as a kid, I was shown the movies. The special editions came out. I was 6. Yes, special edition
Okay.
came out when I was 6. Um, 6 or 7. So I was introduced that way, and as a kid, I never looked further than like, oh, my parents like these movies, they showed me these movies, I love these movies, and then that was it. As I started to get older, I would listen to my mom. We talked about like favorite movies, and my mom goes, "Oh, first ever Star Wars." And I love hearing the story because she goes, "Yeah, no, it was a new movie theater. They talked about having Dolby sound. It was going to be this whole revolutionary thing. So nobody knew what Star Wars was. We all went to the movie, and then, so." As I've gotten older, what I've realized is I was actually introduced basically because my mom, like my dad liked Star Wars. My mom loves Star Wars, so I was introduced from to my mom, uh, giving me all that. And since then, like her and I have done things like the first time I ever went to Celebration was in Anaheim. I took my mom, so that was
Nice.
awesome. We both cosplayed when we met Ewan, so that was awesome.
Wow.
Um, what else? So we have a Christmas tree. We have three Christmas trees. We have the regular one. We have a small Harry Potter one, and then we have a large Star Wars one because my mom and I collect a lot of those, and Hallmark keeps releasing
Wow.
a lot of those. So like when
Yeah.
everybody was talking about like the Empire Strikes Back one with the where the
It goes
I
into the
love you, I know,
carbonite freezing.
yeah, like everybody was talking about it, and I'm just like sitting there, like, yeah, no, we pre-ordered that like already. Like we're waiting for that thing to come in. Like we were like,
Amazing.
it's so 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 my mom really is the one that like drove Star Wars home. Like she's a nurse, but I swear if she had a different life, she would be into special effects. Like we went and saw,
Wow.
like she loved the panels. The production designer that does Mandalorian that started in the Phantom Menace. I forget what the gentleman's name is. Um, but you know who I'm talking about because you see him in all the behind the scenes stuff. He had a panel, and he broke down like how Naboo was created and all this other stuff. And my mom and I like talked about it a lot afterwards. She loved it and stuff like that. And like we did there was like an interview with Anthony Daniels we sat through, and she loved that. So like it's really cool. And then we went on the Star Cruiser. We actually went on the Star Cruiser twice
Wow.
because we went the first year because we wanted to go, and then when it was closing, her and I were both like, we need to. Not only do we need to go again, but we really need to take my nephew, who was 5 at the time, and yeah, so we took him. You
Wow.
know, Galaxy's Edge opened in LA first. We went there like 2 months after that happened. we were there when it was so packed. You only had like a 4 hour block. We were
Oh,
there.
geez. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
so we both love Star Wars. So and it
Amazing.
was cool because then after she taught me, I taught my sister. My mom and I had showed her Phantom Menace, but at one point I said no, we're gonna watch them in the release order. So I showed my sister Jennifer, who has cosplayed with me and met Ewan with me in New York Comic Con. So like it's been like this big kind of like family affair thing. But yeah, no, I was
Awesome.
introduced from my mom, so I owe the women of Star Wars quite a lot actually. Why wouldn't you?
Same. Yeah, my aunt introduced me to the same kind of like my parents were kind of like, like
Mm,
the Star Wars was always kind of around, but like it was my aunt that was like
mm,
collecting books and had the movies and lent me the movies and showed
mm,
me like, you can only watch one per week and you got to watch it over and over again if you like it or whatever. And
mm,
when I met Timothy Zahn and interviewed him back in October, like I texted her when I was on my way up to Halifax to meet him, and she sent me a picture of like her original run, like Timothy Zahn, like the
oh
Thrawn
wow,
trilogy and stuff like that. So like she's still a big Star Wars fan.
that's awesome.
I would not be potentially not be into Star Wars, definitely not be the fan I am without my aunt. So like, yeah, we both just did like a response video with a bunch of other people in the community to that audio going around about women in Star Wars. So if you haven't seen that, check out one of our social channels, or the Dadalorian who put the whole thing together. So thank you, Eric, who's been on the
Yeah.
show
Shout out to the
a while
Mandalorian
ago.
because that was
Yeah.
awesome.
What is you've mentioned Ewan McGregor a couple of times. You're wearing a Kenobi shirt. The answer might be right here in front of us. I'm going to ask your favorite character and then your favorite movie, show, or
Okay,
thing.
so favorite character is a weird one because Kenobi always was, but I feel like if I just looked at the original trilogy, which the original trilogy is my favorite of them, Han Solo would be. But then if I include the Solo movie, I'm kind of like ah. But the older I get, the more I relate more to Anakin and Vader. Like right now, I make the joke with everybody that I know. I'm basically Anakin in Revenge of the Sith right now. That's basically where I'm at in my life. So
Stay
I
away
would
from the
say
kids.
like I would say Han Solo, Anakin slash Vader. And the only reason why I say slash Vader is not that everybody doesn't know. I feel like when people say Anakin, they're only talking about the prequels. When people say Vader, they're only talking about the original. And it's like, no, um, and then so that's like the first tier, and then like a little bit lower is Kenobi, Luke, and Leia.
All right. Solid. Yeah.
So, Kenobi's, and I feel like Kenobi I have such a connection with for two reasons. One is because more relating to Anakin, I'm always striving to be this. I'm a very
Mm.
emotional person, so I'm striving to be more like Obi-Wan. So I feel like there's that connection. Also, which this is really funny. Ewan McGregor, putting aside Star Wars, Ewan McGregor has managed to play me 3 different times in his career, like characters that just are me. So
Mm.
I have this connection to Ewan is really what it is. He's probably my favorite actor, so it's just you know. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that would be, and he was always the Jedi growing up. Like I always liked Luke, but I always thought Kenobi was the Jedi. Like anytime I thought
Mm.
of Jedi, like he was always the first one. Luke was always a Padawan and becoming that. Anakin was, becomes Vader. So like Obi-Wan was always the guy.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know.
He's the Jedi, and I like. And I always love Obi-Wan because of that. He's like the Jedi because he was really faced with a lot of the same issues of like losing his friends, losing his family, losing the only group and family he ever knew, and a lot of the same trials as Anakin, losing his master and all this kind of stuff, but never turned. Right. And we
Right.
see that turmoil, especially in the Kenobi show now, which is,
Oh yeah.
I love that dive into the character and say what you
Mhm.
will about the show. It had some ups and downs, but like it still dove into that character and showed a very, very, very broken man who
Mhm.
still never went dark. And I love
Right.
that definition of a Jedi, but I also love that we've seen that a couple of other times with like Kanan and Jarrus on kind of a different side of that. And then Cal Kestis doing,
Mhm.
again, kind of a different take on that, like,
Mhm.
I've been beaten down, but I'd never give up kind of thing. And, they go into hiding in different ways and they take different paths and they're kind of like different sides to the same coin kind of thing. But like, I love there's something about like a Jedi that never cracks that I also love, but
Right.
I also love me some Darth Vader, Anakin. So
Of course.
I get where you come from with all of this. You mentioned the original trilogy is your favorite. Do you have a definitive favorite movie or show
Okay.
or something?
So I kind of cheat anytime because I'm a movie maker. Everybody asks what's your favorite movie. So so first, real quick, greatest movie of all time is The Lion King. After that, anytime anybody asks me, I go the original trilogy. I think that is a story that's act 1, act 2, act 3, so
Yep.
I don't think I should have to choose. If you have to twist my arm, I will say Empire, and it's like barely. It's just I like where the characters go, but like A New Hope is just like the beginning, and it's just like the perfect hero's journey, and like all this other stuff. But then Return of the Jedi, that's when you get to really see what a Jedi does. And
Yep.
say what you will about the Ewoks, I actually think the Ewok thing was like a brilliant thing, because it showed that anybody in the galaxy could rise to the occasion. And
Mhm.
so I always kind of cheat with that. I'm like, the original trilogy is just one movie, don't worry about it. I like it. I don't think I should have to choose.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to. I usually pick Return of the Jedi as my favorite, but like, yeah, the original trilogy,
Fair.
like, I'd take any single one of them, and I have the stupidest reason for Return of the Jedi being my favorite. It's because I love Luke's green saber, and I love that opening thing of Luke in black and just kicking some ass with his green
Oh, that
saber.
is
Flops
really
like
awesome.
just I love that. That's it. That's like, but I can pick different scenes and different bits, but for some
Right.
reason that spoke to me as a kid, and I was like, this is cinema. Like that was, it was just like that the green
It's
saber. It
also
was the first lightsaber I ever like bought, like
Yeah.
replica
Oh,
kind
that
of thing.
actually might be the first lightsaber that I ever got. Actually, too, was the green one. It was the. Did you have the one? It was like so. It was the Luke one, and then it's like half the blade is like up, and then you turn it on, and it comes out, and
No,
it's like
the full blade was out. It was a Hasbro, I want to say Black Series or something like that. Full blade, not like the super expensive ones. Like it was all plastic and stuff, but it was still, yeah,
very cool.
full blade lit up, had some motion effects and sound effects and all that kind of stuff.
That's really cool.
It was decent for the day, and I still
Mhm.
have it, but it's kind of like away where my kid can't get it because it's broken. Um,
Fair.
so yeah, that's that. Um, I think, I don't know with your Darth Vader Anakin anecdote there. If what way do you lean, light side or dark side?
Oh, I lean light. I lean
Okay,
light
all right, that's
because
what I
no
thought.
matter that's why I'm a Gryffindor, not a Slytherin. There's like a certain line I can't cross. That's
Right.
why
Okay.
like I talked to you about Batman. That's why Batman was always there's like a line that I can never cross. That's why Han really works really well for like a favorite character. Like there's a point that I can't like because the joke has always been amongst people that I've known, whether it be in high school, college, or whatever, that I'm kind of like a Boy Scout or like a Captain America type, like
Yeah.
so like I can't do it,
Yep.
so I definitely am light.
All right. That's what I thought, but then you threw out that Anakin bit earlier, and I was like,
Because I can get that
I don't
emotional, and I am
you feel okay.
99% sure everything that he does for love, if I haven't done it already, I probably will. So
Gotcha. All right.
so let's
Good
just
stuff.
say that I probably will.
All right.
So I could go to that route.
You're
So.
on the brink. I get it. I get it. Lightsaber color of choice. I gave mine away with green and Luke's green one. Do you have a favorite lightsaber color? Like if
Blue.
you blue, always
Blue.
blue.
All my
All right.
favorites have blue. Blue's my favorite color, regardless of Star Wars. And it's just like, oh, all right,
All
well,
right.
that's easy.
Yep. Easy enough. Do you have a specific lightsaber design that is your favorite?
Question. I do really like Obi-Wan's from the Kenobi show.
Mm,
Um, as a kid, I always liked Qui-Gon's because I liked how basic it was. It's almost like designed for spinning. Like it's just,
yeah.
very basic and very clean. Gotta love Anakin's and Luke's. I think I might prefer Vader's over Luke. Vader's over Anakin's. Honestly, I
Mm,
kind of like the black in it a lot.
yeah.
But yeah, probably Kenobi's probably.
Nice.
Kenobi's, then Qui-Gon's, and then from there.
I do love the idea of a Sith saber with like a blue or green kyber crystal in it. Because you get that, like you said, like Darth Vader's, like you get those black tones and stuff in it, and it
Yeah.
looks really cool, like black and like red or exposed wire, that kind of thing. And I love that aesthetic, but with like a light side crystal. I think that's a really
Yeah,
cool
yeah.
contrast because you kind of
I
think like,
I agree.
yeah, the light side, you know, a little bit more metallic or even like High Republic stuff. You get those gold and stuff in there or whatever. Like when I built mine in Galaxy's Edge, I built um, Elemental Nature because I love Gunji's saber, probably my favorite design ever,
Ooh,
with the
that's a great
wood
one.
and stuff like that. So unique. But if I could build another one, I think I'd actually build like a Sith saber, but pop a green or blue crystal in it and just be
Mm.
like, this is real different. You know, it's my
Yeah,
brother
yeah, yeah.
did that, but he did the purple crystal and I was like,
Mm.
okay, yeah, yeah, I see what you're kind of leaning a little bit more a
Oh wait,
darkish kind
I
of thing.
actually did that too. I
Did,
did that.
okay, all right,
I did do that. Now that you say that, it was, what is it? I did power, and then I did purple instead of red. So that way,
nice,
But no, I agree with you. I just think the black works really nicely, and I feel like on somebody the black would kind of be more subdued, like hanging,
yeah,
and I think that could make it more just like sleek when it comes out and everything. I really like that.
yeah, yeah. And you're right with like with Qui-Gon's like for spinning because a lot of the replica sabers. Like I've played with different ones at cons and different things like that, and like had different like actual replica sabers, and some of them are so terrible. They're aesthetically cool as hell, but like
Yeah,
the
like I
second
don't.
you try to spin them or do something, you're like, no, that's cutting my
Yeah,
hand.
exactly. There's just two. There's either a bulky part of it. There's a big ass button. They just don't make
Yeah.
any sense. But Qui-Gon's is like even if you buy like a basic one, it's essentially just like a broken down version of Qui-Gon's. And I think
Mm,
Qui-Gon's is like nice and just like, oh, this is like a weapon. This is not about anything fancy. This is like so you can use this the best way possible. So
yeah, yeah. Love it, love it. Yeah, talk lightsaber designs for days, but we'll move on. Uh, do you have Star Wars collectibles, and if so, what's the favorite like your favorite item? I'm sure you have something. I'm seeing Grogu in
yeah.
behind you, a couple of other
Oh my
things.
god, I have a lot of I have a lot of stuff. I have a lot. I have a lot. Is bad. But I am going to say, let me see. Yeah. So it's not exactly a collectible, but it is a Star Wars item. I was actually thinking about this earlier, because I knew you had this question, and honestly, my favorite thing that I own that Star Wars is I have um Kenobi's Revenge of the Sith attire, the actual costume.
Oh, wow.
That was the aside from the Harry Potter robe, which I really more or less got because I was at Universal. That was technically the first cosplay I ever got. I got it for Force Awakens, and I wore it to every single sequel movie. I wore it. I've worn it at almost every con that I've gone to. I wore it twice to see Ewan. I wore it at both celebrations, and so to me, I've even had to expand it as I've gained weight. I've had to, so I've had to change it, but it's been around, I want to say, since like 2014, 2015. So the
Wow.
fact that like I still have it and it still works, I wore it
Yeah.
on the Star Cruiser, like that's like to me at this point, that's like my Jedi robes. That's not Kenobi's
Yeah.
anymore. Mine.
Wow.
So I think that's probably my favorite because I have the most like experience within it, and I kind of made it my own. So
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, that's like traveled the world with you, man. That's incredible.
quite literally, the first time I
Yeah.
ever went to London was for Star Wars Celebration, and what was in my
Sure.
bag? That thing.
Wow. Wow. Amazing. That's yeah, that's been everywhere. Um what's your favorite affiliation? Is it Jedi or you would you lean
It's
toward like if
it.
you could hang out with someone, where would you go? Like bounty
I
hunter,
mean,
Sith,
I
pirates?
mean, I guess like it's Jedi, but I love the idea of like hanging out with the Jedi, like with rebels. Like if it was just straight up
Mm,
like hanging out with, but it just has to be Jedi because I feel that the the level of expectation for Jedi as like somebody that like superhero things and stuff like that, like Jedi is always like the pinnacle. So to be able to actually hang with them and things like that, like I definitely Jedi. Um,
mm.
but I like to, I wouldn't mind meeting any of them. But it's really funny too because then on the Star Cruiser, a lot of different people came with their own backstory. So my backstory was that I was a Jedi on the cruiser.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That's yeah. Do you have a specific era of Jedi, like High Republic, like
I
peak
like
right before like the sequel trilogy, or where are you kind of
so
like coming down?
I really like the original trilogy and the Mandoverse. That right there is like
Underground.
pinnacle Star Wars, my favorite, and
Yeah,
that's what I would. That's
nice.
like my because to me, Star Wars was always about a uh, a fascist government being overthrown by the most unlikely of people.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like that's like the core of
That's it.
it. So
Yeah, awesome. Last question, and this is one of my favorites because you can get some pretty wacky answers, and hopefully we'll see how you go. So Star Wars basically just constant suffering, tragedy, wrapped up in cool laser swords and killer ponchos. If you were in the Star Wars universe and you had to choose or like accept a hilarious and haphazard way to die, what kind of thing, like what do you think would happen to you in Star Wars to meet your untimely demise? Um, I'll give you an example if
from
you need a second.
so I have three.
Okay, all right,
One
give her.
one would be I try spinning and the lightsaber just slices me in half
Yep.
because I'm when it comes to like lightsaber technique, I'm basically like Ray. It's very blunt, it's very to the point. There's not really spinning. It's about how hard I can hit you. So I could try doing something stupid. Uh Two would be like I would be in a situation and like how Tech does, I don't think it was pod racing, but he does some sort of racing in Bad Batch. I
Yep.
would do something stupid like that, and I'd be like, "Oh yeah, I could pass this guy and go really fast," and I would just go. I'd be that one pod racer that goes right off the Tusken Raiders and is flying up in the air or whatever. I'd be that
Yeah.
guy. Um, the other way would be I actually feel like I'm a pretty decent liar, but I could see myself getting caught in a lie with a pirate or something like that, and I
Mm.
would be shot first. After fighting for years that Han shot first, I would be the one to be shot first over something stupid, probably.
Mm.
So that would be the dumb way I would die.
Yep. Yep. I uh I like I love the spinning one because like how many times, like I know just myself, like how many times I've whacked myself in the friggin' head, like
Mm,
trying to spin or trying to like, oh, like I see something on TikTok. Oh, I can do that trick. Yeah, 100%. Let's go to the backyard and try that. And like I come back in, I got a goose egg welt on my head. It's like, oh, what happened? I smacked myself with a lightsaber because I'm an idiot and I spun a glow stick in
yeah.
the dark. Um, like that's, yeah, like I can see that.
I have a weird habit of like getting into like a stance and like not moving my legs. So like
Mm,
I'm pretty sure I would have cut my legs off a couple times.
yeah.
Just oh
Yeah.
crap.
All right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I probably would do
Yeah.
something stupid. I'd probably be like Anakin and try to show off to Padme and then slice myself in half. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I like that. I love the self reflection and self acceptance. Like I would definitely like go up to an animal that I wasn't supposed to be like, come here, you're my new best friend. Do you want to cuddle? Come on, buddy. And just my arms just instantly off by some like fire breathing dragon monster or something like that. Like just
Mhm,
like, oh yeah, I wasn't supposed to do that. Um,
mhm.
so it's always great to get those answers. So we don't really have like a topic separate from the news this week because there's nothing really new out.
Right.
Um, Charlie and I are we're gonna do a kind of a recap rating thing of like 2023 next episode. So if anyone's tuning in right now and you want to hear what we thought of like everything that was released in 23,
Mhm,
and like pick our favorites, it's gonna be our late award show kind of deal is next
mhm.
week. But this week we got some cool news and I just kind of wanted to pick your brain about a couple of things
Sounds
and
good.
we'll do like news topic all wrapped into one as something a little different. So the first and biggest, I think, bit of news is a new movie,
Mhm,
which was just randomly announced
mhm.
in a press release,
Hmm.
which was a weird way to get this. That was on January 9th.
Hmm.
Um, Mandalorian and Grogu embarking on a new adventure to movie theaters. This is going to be directed by Jon Favreau, produced by Favreau, Kathleen Kennedy, and Dave Filoni, and it's seemingly called The Mandalorian and Grogu,
Hmm.
which will go into production in 2024. So that means I'm guessing maybe a 26 release potentially, depending on how
Unless,
fast they can
um,
film this.
well, the thing is so the other, um, at Star Wars Celebration, they did announce one movie for 2025, and I feel like they still kept one of the 2025 dates
Hmm.
with no movie attached. I'm wondering if it's going to be this, like it would be December of 2025, because wait, maybe not. Hold on. It depends, because there was a period of time where Disney wanted to do a sci-fi movie every December, so it was going to be
Okay.
Avatar, Star Wars, Avatar, Star Wars. But Avatar got moved again. I feel like Avatar might be moved to 2026, which if it is,
Hmm.
there's a possibility that the Mandalorian and Grogu could, depending on when they start, could be 2025. But you're probably right; it's more likely 2026. But
Right.
like December 2025 slot, that might be Mando and Grogu. That might be.
And depending on how they film this, what the story is, they can do a
Mhm.
lot very quickly with the volume. If they're filming the same kind of thing, I'd hope for a big movie event that we'd
Mhm.
kind of get a little bit more on set because the volume is really cool. It's really impressive. It's great for a TV show, but like
Right.
you can kind of tell when things are done on location versus the volume. Where we've seen where one can work way better than the other, or they can kind of
Right.
work in tandem. So I'm wondering if they'll kind of like. I wonder if this is something they can quickly produce, or if this is something that will be more of
Well,
a movie production.
so the way that I'm kind of looking at this is like, Filoni is gonna get the volume for Ahsoka season 2,
Right.
and
Yeah.
Pinewood Studios more than likely is gonna end up with the Mandalorian and Grogu, which
Mm.
would make sense and would help everybody else, because that was one of the big things when Kenobi came out and Andor came out. Is everybody said, why does Andor look like this and Kenobi not? Well, Kenobi was entirely shot on the volume.
Yeah.
Andor, I don't even know if it shot anything on the volume
I don't
actually.
think so. No, I think
So
that was
like,
all location.
yeah, like, you know, so there's the big difference right there.
Yeah.
Um, so that's what I'm kind of thinking is going to be the case. Because I don't see any of the shows leaving the volume except for
Yeah.
obviously Andor season 2. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, Disney and Lucasfilm has such a big thing with Pinewood Studios, and Pinewood Studios is also where Andor is being shot. So that's what I'm thinking. That's where I'm thinking they're going.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we got a quote from Favreau saying, "I have loved telling stories set in the rich world that George Lucas created. The prospect of bringing the Mandalorian and his apprentice Grogu, interesting wording
Mhm.
there, to the big screen is extremely exciting." Um, that's pretty awesome, and I love that it's full on. There's no more got to get him back to his tribe, figure this out. I'm not teaching him, he's like full on apprentice now. We saw a little bit of that in the last season of like, Grogu
Mhm.
going up against other foundlings and whatever. Um, and then they kind of seemingly, spoiler alerts for anyone that hasn't seen season 3, maybe fast forward 30 seconds. But we've seen them kind of like a little bit retire ish. So I guess they're coming out of retirement for this. He's really training him as his apprentice. I wonder, I'm kind of,
Mhm.
I'd love to see a little bit of a time jump and get kind of an older Grogu. He's cute in the shows and that kind of stuff, but I'd love him to be able to talk a bit more, do a bit more. And we saw that a little bit more in season 3 of him jumping around, doing more stuff, being a little bit more active than like baby Grogu. He's now kind of like
Right.
toddler Grogu, right?
Yeah.
And you have to wonder if Yoda was full master training younglings at 100 years old,
He was at
give or
200.
take. Was it 200 he started like full
Yeah, because
master?
in the first ever New Republic book, he's mentioned as a master already, and
Okay.
I believe he was like two. He
That
was
was
over
about 2.
200.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right. So you got to wonder when this species like matures enough that he, would be able to like do
Yeah,
Yoda-esque stuff.
right. I'm kind of thinking he's just going to be very comprehensive, but not
Mm,
able to speak. Is probably what it's going to be.
I like that. Give him that
Mhm.
robot again. Yes, no, yes, no,
Yeah.
no, no, no. Let's go. That's IG 11 or whatever. Yeah, that was. I love that. So stupid, but so fun. Um, so in that same release, we also got um, the Mandalorian Grogu will lead Lucasfilm's ongoing feature development slate. So that means this is coming first,
Mhm.
evidently, even before the Rey movie, even
Mhm.
before James Mangold's whatever the intro to the Jedi or the Force or whatever it is. Um, and Dave Filoni is mentioned here as still having a movie. So there's a lot of like controversy and wonder
Mhm.
built up as like, is this the Filoni movie? Is this like the Mandoverse movie that they've talked about already?
Mhm.
And is like maybe just Favreau's taking the reins instead of Filoni directing, but it seems like Filoni's still getting his chance at it.
Mhm.
But he's currently developing, like you already mentioned, Ahsoka season 2.
Mhm.
Um, so there's a lot of stuff to take away from this weird little press release that they just did January
Right.
9th, just like, hey, out of the blue, here we go. Um,
Mhm.
so I guess first off, like, how are you feeling about this movie, especially in terms of like this is leading the slate of Star Wars feature films? Like
Mhm.
you were there. You heard
Right.
about all the other movies at
Right.
Celebration, and then they just come out randomly with this thing and say, "Hey, also this is taking priority.
Mhm.
This is coming out first." How do you feel as like a someone who was there for all these announcements, and b just like in general of what this movie is?
So, um, one of the things that I noticed with season 3 of Mando is there was like a split in the fandom as to if people appreciated the fact that it was broader than just the two of them. Me personally, I liked it because I feel like it was the first time the whole series that Mando was like, "Hey, I don't want to be the person. You're
yeah,
it," and he got to
yeah,
actually do that for an entire season. So that was important. So I kind of liked that.
yeah. Me too.
Um, so I kind of feel like because of that, okay. So in November, I think it was, there was this random rumor that Disney didn't want to do a Mandalorian season 4. They actually wanted to do a Mandalorian movie for Disney Plus.
Mm,
Um, so it kind of lends itself to the idea that they always were thinking about a movie. I also kind of feel like with the way the fandom kind of split with the idea of like, Bo getting such a huge chunk of the Mandalorian, you know, um, the the Empire sympathizers getting a whole section. And then even just the tribe itself having a big
yeah,
part of it. I think what they realized was, okay, well, if we took that season, which is probably like 4 or 5 hours, and we cut all that other stuff out, and it was just Mando and Grogu, we're down to two. So
yeah,
what about if we cut all that out and we just make this?
yeah,
And then they're like, okay, well, if we make this, what about if we make money off of it? And that's why they're like, oh, well, let's release it in theaters, which isn't a bad idea either because it starts putting the Mandoverse into shorter forms. So when it goes to a movie, it should still be a 3 hour movie, but when it gets there, there's already something that's already started doing that.
yeah.
Um, so I don't have a problem with it. I think it could work really nicely, especially if it really just sticks to the two of them and it really focuses on their relationship and where they have to be in order to eventually fight Thrawn, I guess.
And that's what I wanted to ask. So first off, I did have in the show notes here, like, do you think this is going to be like mainly theatrical or like a Disney Plus almost simultaneous drop? Like,
Mm,
because of those rumors of like this is more of a I want to say made for TV movie, but like maybe a little bit more production value or whatever. But like,
yeah,
sounds like you're thinking it's theatrical first, maybe a quicker Disney Plus release, but like make this
yeah.
an event, right? Make it count.
I think they're trying to get the event. They're trying to get
Yeah.
people excited. I mean, if you think about it, that's essentially what they did with Force Awakens. Force Awakens, they basically did A New Hope plus a little bit of Empire, it's like, oh, let's
Yeah.
play it safe, let's get the people going back, then we'll have the next movie. And then
Right.
it works out too because they can get a movie out quicker without taking Filoni away from where he's needed. Because
Yeah.
Favreau was more so a producer, occasionally directing an episode. So Favreau's got the time. Filoni is out here like creating Ahsoka and like
Yeah.
doing whatever. So, and I assume, from what I understand from Celebration, like I assume Filoni, I guess, will shepherd Skeleton Crew because like everybody kind of forgets like that show takes place at the exact same time, which in theory
Yeah.
means Jude Law is going to be joining Rosario Dawson and Pedro.
Yep.
So, um, so yeah, so that would allow Filoni to kind of focus on the TV side until he can make his movie, and then Favreau has something more to do other than just being a producer and overseer. He has like a hands-on project that he can do.
The
So I
the nice
try
thing
to.
with the nice thing with Favreau is like he's also the guy that kicked off the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, like, the MCU is getting a lot of flack, but Star Wars seems to be in this weird zone where they can't quite find their footing. They've got a lot of, the fandom's a little bit all over the place.
Yeah.
You like some parts of every show, some of the shows, it's like, that just didn't hit where we wanted it to. It's like
Mm,
they haven't had a massive, massive hit that's pleased everyone since like Mandalorian season 2, or
yeah.
Andor, maybe. But for Filoni to grab this and again lead the slate of movies, kick off the new slate of movies, and kick off a cinematic Mandoverse.
Mm,
I'm wondering if that's kind of like, hey Favreau, can you do Iron Man again? Here's another dude with a metal bucket on his head. Have fun.
yeah.
Uh,
It
and
very well could be.
yeah, and leading up to Filoni's Avengers, because like
Right.
that's going to be everyone versus Thrawn. That is
Right.
going to be the Star Wars Endgame or whatever you want to call it. Of like the
Mhm.
team needs to come together to kick this blue guy's ass.
Basically.
Right? Like that's that's how I see
Yeah.
it. So it's and you're right on. Like Jude Law, Boba Fett, Fennec Shand, Mando, Grogu, Ahsoka, the Rebels crew. Everyone's coming together for Filoni's movie. I'm hoping even recasts of the original trilogy crew. I would love
Yeah.
to see. I'd love to see. And one thing that's been absent from this and absent from the rumors, or maybe just a rumor and not an actual
Mm,
thing, is Donald Glover's um, his movie with Lando.
yeah.
And I'm wondering if they will do like, let's get Lando back, let's get Han Solo, young Han Solo back, and then recast Luke and Leia
Right.
and
There
get
was
them
a.
in Filoni's.
I feel like it might have been before it, but around the time of the Mandalorian having his own movie, there was a rumor that um uh what was his name? Aldridge, is that his name? That played
Yeah,
him.
yeah,
That played Solo
yeah.
was already being talked to, and then they were looking for two people for Luke and Leia. Um,
Oh, that'd be so good.
so in theory, they are going that way, and depending on when Lando's movie is supposed to take place, maybe it's part of it. Maybe that's why it went through such a weird thing because they talked about. I think if I remember correctly, when they announced like because originally he was getting a series,
Yeah.
there was like a rumor that it was going to be before A New Hope. Then there was at
Mm.
least a fan theory, at least amongst the friends that I had. The theory was they were almost going to be like they might have done like almost like an old Lando tells stories about young Lando. So there was going
Hmm.
to be a way that Billy D. Williams was going to like start the episode, and then it was going to be Donald Glover the whole time.
Yep.
So maybe at a certain point they realized it was Lando would be more interesting after as opposed to before. Especially because here's the other thing too is like there's comics that are canon. Like one of the Star Wars I did read like the first Lando comic they released, and I don't remember how, but he ends up winning in a bet a Star Cruiser that was supposed to be Palpatine's. I don't really remember the whole thing, but like that's
That's
what I'm saying. But
fantastic.
like that's still canon. So like
Yeah.
it's like, do you go back to that? Do you start doing what you start following Filoni's rationale, which is the shows and the movies are canon and everything else could be or could not be, or are they gonna start going like, like maybe we should start making canon, and we're making so much more, we're creating so much more during the Mandoverse. Maybe Lando should be here.
Right.
So maybe
Right.
that's gonna be the plan. I mean,
Yeah.
that would work.
Yeah, I mean we've got like as far as a movie canon, we know that he and Luke went on some missions together, went
Right.
after Ochi,
Mm-hmm.
and tried to ended up kind of almost finding that ship and where Rey's parents and everything, all
Right.
that kind of stuff. Like it was a little bit of crossover in Rise of Skywalker. But aside from that, yeah, it's all written, it's all comics and that kind of stuff, and they can and have played fast and loose with that kind of stuff before, as far as like canon is concerned. So, yeah, it's kind of anyone's
Mm-hmm.
interpretation and anyone's game at this point. So it'll be interesting to see where all this comes together. But um, I'm very excited, but also very excited for like they just kind of dropped Ahsoka season 2 confirmed in
Yeah.
this at the bottom of the thing, like, and then like a couple of days later, it was like Filoni sharing like concept art of Ahsoka and Sabine standing on that same giant
Yeah.
pointing figure
Mm-hmm.
that Balin's skull was pointing. What are your hype levels for Ahsoka season 2 right now?
So like I was automatically hyped, but I feel like it was because I like watched the finale and I was like, there's like no way this doesn't get a season 2. Like that's
Right.
impossible that this leads to the movie. So like I kind of felt like it was like it was like inevitable. I'm like, all right, like can you just like announce it? Like I don't know why I don't know why I need to wait to hear that you're making season 2, because like you
Right.
have to. Like the Filoni movie literally doesn't work unless half the Filoni movie is going to be them going to go find Sabine and Ahsoka, because I'm like,
And
geez, we already
my
did
my
that.
my fear, again going back to the Avengers, was, so if you remember like the original MCU stuff, Thor ended, the rainbow bridge is destroyed, there's no way to get back to anywhere. The Thor movie ends and Loki's gone and Thor's trapped in Asgard, can't get back to Jane, can't get back to Earth, he's completely screwed. And then the Avengers comes along and Thor just lands on the plane after
Yeah,
they capture Loki, and he's just like, "Hey, bitches, I'm back. What's going on?" And it's just like they throw it
yeah,
away in a line of like, "How much dark magic did Odin have to muster to send you
right,
back?"
right, right.
I was worried that they do the same thing if Ahsoka didn't get a season 2. They'd be just like, "Hey, suddenly Ahsoka found her way back, and they're gonna fight Thrawn."
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
they could opening crawl the hell out of that, and I didn't want that, and I'm
mhm,
so glad we're not. Like they're
yeah. I
actually
agree.
going to explore that a bit more, and not just like opening crawl. Like, so Ahsoka and Sabine found their way back, and now everyone has to take on Thrawn. Here's a
Mhm,
Star Wars. Um,
right.
it's, yeah, so much better this way.
Mhm, I agree.
So your hype levels
Oh yeah,
pretty
I
high.
was just I was just waiting. Like I said, I was just like waiting. I like watching. I was like, okay, like there has to be a season 2, right? It was more of a. It wasn't even more of a hype thing. It was more of a like, there's no way they're gonna disappoint me, right? They can, right?
Yeah, right. Uh, so I do have to ask, Balin's skull.
Recast. They have to.
Okay.
There's no you. The character is designed to have a whole like arc essentially.
Yeah.
So I don't think it functions without him. Like I just
Yeah.
there's just no way, which really sucks. But like I don't, because I'm still under the impression I don't know how it's gonna work. Either him and Shmi, right? That's how you say your name. Did I get that right? Okay. They are somehow going, in my opinion, are going to be involved in the creation of the Knights of Ren and Snoke.
Oh.
Don't know because he has the same ring as Snoke. He's kind of like this very ambiguous, like, oh, I'm not a Sith, but like I'm not light. Um, I don't think Snoke is going to be like a I don't think Snoke is necessarily like a clone of him. I
Right,
think
right.
somehow he's involved, and I think that
Oh.
whole thing with those stupid random tribal soldier things that she becomes a part of. I'm like, oh, you mean these people that use blunt instruments like Kylo was leading? Oh, there's the Knights of Ren. There's a potential Snoke connection. And that's why he says, I'm looking for something deeper. I'm not looking for Sith. I'm not looking for Jedi. I'm looking for something deeper. The deeper thing would
Mm.
Palpatine existing, the clones, the all that stuff. So I almost feel like they're somehow they're setting up how he is going to tell everybody how somehow Palpatine returned. It's going to be Balin that's going to say, "Nope, this is how he did," because
Oh,
they
damn.
kind of describe it in the Rise of Skywalker book a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to be like the one that's like, "No, this is what happened.
Oh, wow.
This is why all of this stuff happens." Why maybe he'll even I don't think he'll explain what a dyad is more. I think like he'll basically like explain like, oh well the force is balanced now. Now
Mm.
that means anytime evil rises, light must rise equally, which so
Right.
I
Yeah.
think there's like some sort of key element that he does for the sequels because I still believe that that's what these movies are leading towards. Like you're gonna find out that Moff Gideon's experiments. Oh, he cloned and he was trying to put force. Oh, that's how Snoke was made.
Yeah.
That's another piece because they even go
Yeah.
back to that in Bad Batch.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Everything's. We've talked about it on this show before. Of like
Mm,
the Bad Batch is leading up to the Mandalorian, which is leading up to Rise of Skywalker and Snoke and
mm,
Palpatine coming back. Like it's all connected. They're doing the exact same thing that they did with the Clone Wars cartoon, with all of this stuff of
mm,
filling in those gaps in
mm,
between, making the movies make more sense after the fact, but we're getting more of that explanation, more of the thing, and then you'll get that line
mm.
of somehow Palpatine returned, but guess what? Over the next whatever many years, they're going to explain that. So like a couple of years down the road from now, you're going to be like, oh, this is exactly how that dude returned, and
Right.
just the universe doesn't know it. The same way that nobody knows that Darth Vader is Anakin. Like, how are they going to know? They're in the woods somewhere. Like, of course, it's just like if
Right.
somehow he returned, I don't freaking know. I don't like,
Yeah.
like somehow there's this dark giant thing chasing all the Jedi. It's Anakin, but like no one knows. It's just Darth Vader. Is he a robot? Is he a dude? I don't know. He kills everyone. Run, just run.
Right. Right.
So I think it's that same kind of mystery, but they're explaining it to us, which I love.
Yeah. And I think
So
I'm hoping I'm hoping we might get a sense of Infinity War with it
mm,
because the whole point is that the sequel trilogy has to happen, which means the Mandoverse, in theory, should not end on a good note. In theory,
yeah,
which
yeah,
I think would be awesome because that's part of the reason why Empire works so well. And it's not like you have to make it hopeless. Like Empire is a great example. Like they still had hope, they lost
yeah,
them. This has got to be, it's got to be the same thing. Especially because if you go back to the Rise of Skywalker when Rey hears the Jedi, the question is, does she hear them through the world between worlds because they can contact, or does she hear dead Jedi? Which if
yeah,
she does hear dead Jedi, Ahsoka has to go at some point.
yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
hoping
That's
that because
it's
I like the idea of like old Ahsoka and Rey's movie somehow,
yeah,
but it would kind of make sense if she were to sacrifice herself, and then it would explain that too, like why
yeah,
she's able to speak through the world between worlds because she's dead. So
yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and I said that the first time I saw the Rise of Skywalker, I was you start picking out the voices and you go home and you're like, okay, who are all these voices? Oh my god, that is who I thought it was. And like everyone's dead but her. Oh shit. Here we go. So that's and it's and again you saw the sequels and you said that it can't end on a good note. Um,
mhm,
and you have to wonder of like how things went down. And we saw that with Ahsoka. We see that with Mandalorian season 3 of like the Empire. The seeds are still there. Like there's still stuff going on in the background. There's still some loyalists. There's still
mhm,
people that are trying to take down the Republic, and the Republic has people that are just way too full of themselves, way too confident, way too relaxed that they don't think this stuff's a threat.
Right.
So Thrawn's going to come back and mess some stuff up, and we're, like you said, I think we're going to see that Infinity War, that Empire kind
Yeah.
of thing. It's going to be interesting. Last thing I want to ask. I listed the state of movies already. We've got Mando and Grogu, Rey Skywalker's new Jedi movie, Filoni's Mandoverse, Ahsokaverse movie, the Lando movie potentially, and the Dawn of the Force Jedi thing James Mangold's working on. How are you feeling about this overall slate that they've talked about?
I mean, I feel pretty good. The Dawn of the Jedi movie, I think the cool thing is there's a lot of flexibility with that movie. Um, James Mangold has basically done good movies except for Indiana Jones 5. I thought that movie was not good.
There
So
was a good movie in there. They just needed to edit an
yeah,
hour out of it.
spoiler alert for anything. The second they introduced time travel, because apparently that's like a gimmick now, that threw me right out of the thing. I was like, nope,
Mm.
we out. That was the only thing that I thought was totally not an Indiana Jones thing. I'm like, dude, The Flash literally just came out. Like, it came out like 3 weeks before you. This doesn't
No.
work. This is so dead. Endgame did it best. Leave it alone. It's done.
I could have even accepted that part, but I just thought there was just like 45 minutes to an hour needed to be edited out
Oh
of
my
that movie.
god.
It was
Yes.
so long.
Long. I think
So long. And that's just
I
someone
think
with an Indiana Jones figure right back
I
there that you
dude, I
probably can't see.
cosplayed to
But
it.
like,
I cosplayed to the movie and was just like, then I
yeah,
sat there, I was like, no, this is
yeah,
but
yeah.
so
Anyway.
yeah. So there's that. The Rey Skywalker one I'm super excited for. I think
Oh,
Rey
yeah.
is a great character. I think this I don't know I don't know how you created a brain trust for 3 movies and not one of the writers of those 3 movies knew what the other one was writing. I don't understand that.
Yeah.
There's pictures of JJ and Ryan and Colin sitting in a room with their scripts.
Yeah.
I don't know how there was no sense of like
Cohesion.
continuity. I don't
Yeah.
know I don't know why they couldn't work together. Like Favreau and Filoni show, like, oh, we got Robert Rodriguez in here to do this. Okay, but you have to do this. Like, you can do it. So I don't really understand what happened because I think there were a lot of good ideas. I just think it's a mess.
Yep.
And I think the characters are fine. So I think Rey gets a sense of redemption. I think um I really hope they make Finn a Jedi because it would be the first time
Yes.
we see a Jedi Master and Padawan who are the same age, one teaching the other one. I think
Yep.
that would be fascinating, and I think Rey will start. I wouldn't say go the gray Jedi route, but
Hmm.
I think she could potentially see things a different way. Because one of the things I'm most excited about for the Mando and Grogu movie, or at least I'm hoping is going to happen, is somebody goes, "Hey Grogu, I know you chose to be a bounty hunter, but you keep using the Force for your own gain. You would literally what a dark side user is, even though you're not a dark side user. So
Yep.
what are you?" I think at some point he has to be conflicted. I think him and Mando have to have some sort of conflict about that. It doesn't even have to be bad. It doesn't have to be a blow up thing. It just has
Yeah.
to be like something doesn't feel right. And I think Grogu eventually is going to be some form of Jedi, whether he's going to be this like Mandalorian Jedi that's a foil to Rey somehow or
Mm.
something. But I feel like Grogu. I feel like the reason why Filoni and Favreau did not leave the two of them separate is because it's going to be more interesting with them together. With
Mm.
Grogu going, oh yeah, no, I'm a bounty hunter now. I am a Mandalorian. And it's like, yeah, dude, but you are force jumping here. You are force choking this guy.
Mm.
You are not actually a Mandalorian. You are a Jedi.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I think that'll tie into Rey Skywalker's thing because we'll have seen like this Grogu kind of dealing with the gray. I mean, kind of like Ezra did, and then you got Rey. I mean, hopefully you have old Ezra in Rey's movie, but
Right. Yeah.
so I think that'll be good. And then I think the Mandoverse movie, I don't really I mean, even if the movie's just like mediocre, it'll be great. Just because it's just like it's just accumulation of all greatness. It's like, all right, well, we can live it. I mean, geez, it's like Avengers versus Avengers: Age of Ultron. It's like, yeah, the first Avengers is definitely a better movie. Age of
Yep.
Ultron is still really enjoyable and like still worth the rewatch, and everybody still likes it, so it's fine.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I think you're right on. I am very curious about how James Mangold, continues with what he's doing, because it's also the most separate. Mando and Grogu, potentially the Lando movie, Filoni's Mandoverse, all that kind of stuff. Like that's the same time period, and then we have Ray just a tiny bit in the future, and then James Mann is like 25,000 years disconnected, right? So it's like
Yeah,
it's very, like you said, very
yeah,
free and whatever. But the rest of them, I think, yeah, are
right,
could
and
be potentially all connected, especially
eh,
with, like you said, with Grogu
right,
potentially being that bridge.
yeah, and then there's the question of, did they really fire Ryan Johnson, or is he still making a trilogy? Because they never fully. And Taika Waititi
I was
supposedly
just gonna
has
say
written.
Taika Waititi, yeah,
So, and I don't know. It's like there's like a whole possibility that all of this stuff that we're talking about ends up on the back burner, because all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, Taika Waititi Star Wars movie takes place in the New Republic and is this. Oh,
right,
okay. I
yeah,
guess we're getting that first. I don't know.
yeah.
It's
Who knows?
it's very interesting.
It is. They've shown that they're not scared to mix things up and put new things ahead, as we've literally just seen with Mandalorian and Grogu. So it's an interesting time to be a Star Wars fan, and we're getting potentially lots of really cool stuff in the next few years. So
Yeah.
um, yeah, I can't wait to see what they do. But with that, let's wrap it up here. Jimmy, thank you so much for joining me. This was an absolute pleasure, absolute blast
Yeah, no,
talking
this
to
was a lot
you. We'll
of
have to
fun.
do it again. Um, Please tell people where they can follow you and where they can find your stuff.
Okay, so Jimmy K underscore FOE is my username on Instagram and TikTok. Um, I believe that's how you can find me on Facebook. Otherwise, you can just use Jimmy Kelly Fight On Entertainment for that. YouTube, I have a company one that's, you just search Fight On Entertainment. There's a blue logo with a kind of David Goliath kind of imagery going. That's me as well. Um, oh, on X, I'm also Jimmy K underscore FOE. Yeah,
All right.
I think I got
Excellent.
everything.
Excellent. And for anyone that didn't catch all that, links are going to be in the show notes. So go down there, click right, and make sure you follow Jimmy, because constantly entertaining stuff, and we've got some stuff coming up, and hope I hope to just kind of continue doing stuff with you and get you back on the
Yeah,
show.
man.
It's great to work
Anytime.
with you, and great to talk to you. So thank you again
Yeah,
for joining us.
of course, man.
All right, everyone, you can follow me at the under. Or no, sorry, geez, I changed it up. See, I got it right at the start of the show now. So I have two. I've separated my Instagram account and my TikTok accounts. Um, so you can find me at Canardian underscore Jedi. And if you want to follow my gaming stuff, it's Canardian underscore gamer. So for Star Wars, that's more of my cosplay Star Wars specific stuff is Canardian underscore Jedi. So follow me there on Instagram and TikTok. I haven't changed anything on X because I don't go there anymore. So
Yeah.
so there you go.
I basically just like have the thing. The thing just exists.
Yeah. It still exists. I'm sure you can message me there and I'll see it eventually. But that's about it. Instagram and TikTok are the ways to go for me. And of course, the Secret Friends Unite Discord group. So check that out and chat in there about all things geek. Thank you, everyone, for listening. May the force be with you. Rex, play us out.